let me tell you something that the mainstream media is not going to tell you. What just happened tonight, right before that 8 p.m. Eastern deadline, is going to go down as one of the most stunning reversals in American foreign policy history. And I need you to stay with me for the next few minutes, because what I'm about to walk you through is not spin. It's not opinion. It's the documented facts, Trump's own words, Iran's own statement, and it tells a story that is absolutely devastating. So let's go back. For weeks, Iran has been sitting at the table with a 10-point negotiating framework, 10 specific demands. And for weeks, the Trump administration called that framework maximalist. Their word. They said it was unreasonable. They said they would never agree to it. Trump himself had a 15-point plan, and the U.S. position was, our 15 points or nothing. Iran's response, they didn't move an inch. Not 1 point. Not 1 comma. Iran said, our 10 points, or there is no deal. Period. Meanwhile, Trump was out there telling the world, publicly, on social media, in statements, that if Iran didn't comply, he would obliterate the entire civilization of Iran. His language. Obliterate. The entire civilization. He set an 8 p.m. Eastern deadline. The world was watching. Markets were nervous. The Middle East was on edge. And then 8 p.m. came, and Donald Trump blinked. Not only did he blink, he surrendered. Completely. And I'll prove it to you right now using nothing but the words from both sides. Here is Trump's actual statement. I'm going to read it to you word for word so there's no misunderstanding. He said, and I quote, "We received a 10-point proposal from Iran and believe it is a workable basis on which to negotiate. Almost all of the various points of past contention have been agreed to between the United States and Iran." Read that again. He said almost all of the various points, meaning Iran's 10 points, have already been agreed to. Those are my words. That is Donald Trump saying that the United States has already agreed to most of Iran's 10 demands. The same 10 demands his team called maximalist just weeks ago. Now let me walk you through what those 10 points actually are, because this is critical. And when I read these to you, I want you to remember, Trump just said he's already agreed to most of them. Point 1. A commitment to non-aggression against Iran, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and Iranian-backed Shiite groups in Iraq. The United States is committing not to go after Iran or its proxy forces. Point 2. Continuation of Iran's control over the Strait of Hormuz. Iran gets to keep controlling one of the most important waterways on Earth and charge $2 million per ship that passes through it. Point 3. Acceptance of Iran's uranium enrichment. Iran gets to keep enriching uranium. This has been a core red line for decades, and it's gone. Point 4. Lifting all primary sanctions on Iran. Point 5. Lifting all secondary sanctions on Iran. Point 6. Termination of all UN Security Council resolutions against Iran. Point 7. Termination of all Board of Governors resolutions against Iran. Point 8. Payment of compensation, war reparations, to Iran. The United States paying Iran money. Point 9. Withdrawal of U.S. combat forces from the region. America leaves its military bases in the Middle East. Point 10. Cessation of war on all fronts, including against Hezbollah in Lebanon. That is the 10-point framework. And Trump said he's already agreed to most of it and is using the rest as the basis for further negotiation. Now, I want you to think about what this means in real terms. Iran gets to enrich uranium. Iran controls the Strait of Hormuz and collects tolls. Iran keeps its entire ballistic missile and drone arsenal. Iran gets reparations from the United States. The U.S. pulls its forces out of the Middle East. And Hezbollah, Iran's proxy army in Lebanon, gets to survive. This isn't a negotiation. This is a capitulation. And Iran is not being quiet about it. Iran's Supreme National Security Council released an official statement. And they are calling this, in their own words, an undeniable historic and crushing defeat for the United States. They said, again, their words, that America has been forced to accept Iran's 10-point plan. They are celebrating this on state television. They are spiking the football. Iranian state media is saying Trump has retreated. One Iranian military outlet used language I won't repeat on air, but the message was clear. They believe they humiliated the United States tonight. Now think about the contrast. Trump was threatening total obliteration. And Iran's response to that threat was to put out memes. Memes. Because they weren't afraid. They didn't believe it. And they were right not to believe it. Meanwhile, in Israel, one of America's closest allies in the region, sources are telling Israeli news outlets that they were shocked. Blindsided. Israeli officials said they received updates only in the final moments, when everything was already finalized. Israel did not agree to this. Israel was not consulted in any meaningful way. And Israel is now looking at a framework where Hezbollah survives, Iran keeps enriching uranium, and the U.S. is pulling out of the region. That is Israel's nightmare scenario. And it just happened. Let me also talk about how this deal came together, because that itself is a story. It wasn't negotiated through traditional U.S. diplomatic channels. It wasn't the State Department. It wasn't direct U.S.-Iran back-channel diplomacy. It was Pakistan. Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and Field Marshal Munir brokered this. And we're also learning that China was deeply involved in the background, and Russia played a role as well. So the countries that helped bring this deal across the finish line were Pakistan, China, and Russia. Let that sink in. The United States, the most powerful country on earth, just agreed to a ceasefire on terms set by Iran, brokered by Pakistan, with China and Russia in the room. That is the geopolitical reality of what happened tonight. Now I want to be precise about something. Trump is calling this a win. His team will go on Fox News tonight and tomorrow and say, "Look, we achieved our military objectives. We negotiated a peace deal. Trump is a master deal maker." That is the spin that is coming. I am telling you right now, before it arrives, so that when you hear it, you understand what's actually being sold to you. The facts are simple. Iran had 10 demands. The U.S. called them maximalist and unacceptable. Iran didn't move. The U.S. accepted the 10-point framework as the basis for negotiations and said most points are already agreed to. Iran declared victory. Israel is shocked. And Russia, China, and Pakistan are the power brokers who made it happen. One more thing I want to address, because it happened in real time as the ceasefire was being announced. Reports started coming in of ballistic missiles launched from Iran toward Israel. Early warning sirens in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. The UAE claiming it was engaging Iranian drones. And the question I have, and I want you to hold this question, is whether those reports were real or whether they were designed to break the ceasefire before it could take hold. Because there are powerful actors in the region who do not want this ceasefire to succeed. Israel doesn't want it. Certain Gulf states don't want it. And if missiles are flying the moment a ceasefire is declared, you have to ask, who benefits from the ceasefire falling apart right now? We're going to be watching this closely in the hours and days ahead. The first formal negotiations are reportedly set to take place in Islamabad on Friday. Whether this ceasefire holds until then is a genuine open question. But here is the bottom line tonight. For weeks, I told you, the only way a deal gets done is if Trump fully surrenders to Iran's 10-point framework. Because Iran wasn't moving. And tonight, that is exactly what happened. Trump's own statement confirms it. Iran's own statement confirms it. The terms of the ceasefire confirm it. This is not how Trump wanted this to end. This is not what his team promised. And the American people deserve to understand clearly what just took place. Not the spin, not the celebration on state media, but the actual documented reality. Iran did not blink. America did.